Fire them up. That's what we're doing. We're firing up on Friday. It's a wet one out there. Be careful, everybody. Make sure you got your weather settings set on your phone or you got your weather radio because we are on the Andrew Gosser Show on 103.9 WYAB. We're streaming on Rumble. We're streaming on X. We're streaming on YouTube. And we're streaming at the mothership that is WYAB.com. So if you can't pick up the 50,000 watt blowtorch that is 103.9, go ahead and like, share, and subscribe to one of the streams. We'd appreciate it greatly. X is working today, at least right now. You can follow me on X. It's at Andrew Gosser, ANDREW GASSER. And if you want to be part of the show today, liberals always welcome. 601-879-0002. Text line is open, 601-879-5060. And the mission here at the Andrew Gosser Show, it is standard. We are here to equip the saints. Who are the saints? Y'all are the saints. Yeah, y'all are the saints. I planted it, Apollos watered it, but God gave the increase. And I got more feedback and more pushback yesterday via the text line and even 2 phone calls about talking to some liberals and giving them airtime to make their case. And I'm going to double down on my position, but I'm going to let my friend, quick 30-second cut here, go on it.
You guys are welcome to ask anything. Open mic, disagreement, most welcome. If you disagree, come to the front of the line. If you disagree, come to the front of the line. If you disagree, go to the front of the line. You guys know how it works. You disagree, you can go to the line. We'll have a great conversation here.
Who are you?
My name is Charlie Kirk, and I love America.
Why are you here?
Because I love talking with people I disagree with.
What have you done for your country?
Started an organization that's now in 1,000+ campuses to save the greatest culture and country ever to exist. I love talking to people I disagree with. When people stop talking, that's when you get violence. That's when civil war happens.
And that's why they martyred Charlie Kirk. Because Charlie Kirk would go into the lion's den and he would talk to people who disagreed with him. And to think about this, he is so effective at what he does that they killed him. They murdered him. Wasn't a violent political right. We all know it's a violent political left. And let's be honest, when we listen and we decide where we're going to consume our information, our news, our entertainment, we make a conscious decision because we are humans and our bandwidth is only so wide. Very few people can listen to more than 2 radio programs at the same time and make them both out. Normally we were locked in and we're focused. And when we are deciding what we want to consume, we want to have it affirming. We want to enjoy it. Or at least most of us do. Some people enjoy the pain. Some people would say that I enjoy the pain listening to liberals speak. I just want to defeat my enemies so I get to know them. It's very, very simple. And we should always welcome public discourse. And even though the mainstream news media, which is the enemy of the United States of America, I am even more convinced of it every day that ever since we got rid of the Smith-Mundt Act, that has become the biggest weapon formed against the Constitution and our representative republic. It's these communist lefties who are put in positions of power using the system. We can't blame it on capitalism because capitalism is what drives our representative republic. But they get put in these positions and they stream a narrative and they hit you over and over and over again. It truly is a drive-by. But when you start looking at things and seeing how the country is reforming itself, and we're going to talk about Iran and we're going to talk about Great Britain and what's happening over there. It's important that we do. I want to talk about what's happening here at home. Because there is a fundamental shift that's taking place, despite the rot gut coming out of our cell phones and iPads, despite the dumbing down of the American citizen and the children of America. I mean, that's where the real crime is going on. It the disservice that the public education system is giving to our kids, and even the private school education system. You know, you pay $1,000, $2,000 a month to send your kid to private school. You think that your kid's automatically gonna be an A student. You are sadly mistaken. You still have to be a parent. You still have to make sure little Sally goes and does her reading every night. You gotta make sure Billy does his science every night. It's just not the public school education system. It's the whole education system in general. Maybe it's the whole American system. We've got it so good. We're in the middle of a economic war right now, and we're complaining. We're we have no shortages. Things are more expensive, but we have no shortages. If you wanna go out and fertilize your fields, you can go down to Copiah County Co-op tomorrow and get fertilizer. You're gonna pay for it, but you can do it. I wouldn't recommend it being so wet and rainy. Not a good time, not a good time. But there are signs out there, and sometimes they slip through, and they're small little cracks, and this is one of them. And we haven't had him on in a while, but this one I get his stuff sent to me every other day or so. But this one is truly interesting to me, and I hope it's interesting for you too. 3, 2, 1, here we go.
Yeah, I think what we're seeing right now in the numbers is President Trump and the Republican Party are chipping away at the long-term advantage that Democrats have had with black voters, with African Americans. You could
Wait, what are you saying? We're chipping away? You know, this is not racist. This is not hate. This is just statistical evidence. The black population of the United States of America traditionally votes about 92 to 96% Democrat every year. Traditionally, there have been a couple where it's been a little bit smaller than that, 88%. But you think about it, the entire black population votes Democrat, and Democrats still only win by 3 or 4 points. What would happen if they lost 10% of their voting base in the black community, or 15%? It changes the calculus. It changes it greatly, and there is some evidence that's coming out there that is, if true, pretty interesting.
You can see it right here. Look, Trump's approval among African Americans at this point in term one, he was at 12%. You know, he's been losing ground with a lot of people. He's gaining ground with African Americans. He's up to 16% at this point. And you say, this isn't that big of a shift. But I will tell you, Republicans absolutely love this shift that's going on because Democrats have had such a long-term advantage. The fact that he's actually gaining ground versus where he was in term number one, this has major implications for elections down the line because Democrats, especially in a lot of these tight races, you talk about places like Georgia, right down in the South, you see this type of movement for Trump actually gaining ground. This could have major ramifications and could help put Republicans over the top in a number of southern places in the midterm election.
And that is scaring the hell out of the Democrats. And we have our traditional liberal callers call in. We did have that one guy who thought that the oil was greed calling. We haven't heard him before, but hopefully he's out there listening. Hopefully he calls in again. I'll revert to type in Charlie's example, inviting people to call. I'll invite conservatives to call too. I just think I do an okay job of espousing the conservative point of view. But that is neither here nor there. What is the issue is that the black population in America is starting to tend to the right. And the truth of the matter is most black people, most white people, let me rephrase that. Most people under the age of 26 don't even know the Lyndon Baines Johnson quotes, which if I read on the air, the station manager, Matt, would be turning around in his car, getting ready to fire me. So I'm not going to say them, but you can go look them up. You know, these cell phones have completely melted away U.S. history and have modified it into their own creation. Demons and devils. But let's continue with this. I digress.
But do you see this as part of a bigger trend?
I see this as absolutely part of a bigger trend. Donald Trump's Republican Party is absolutely gaining ground, not just him gaining in terms of his approval rating, but look at the party ID margin, Kate, because this to me was absolutely stunning. Look at this party ID margin among African Americans. At this point in Trump term number 1, Democrats had a 63-point advantage. That is absolutely fallen. Look at where it is now. A double-digit shift away. Democrats, of course, still have the advantage, but it's a 12-point shift to the Republican Party. And I look back through Gallup's records. They sent me their records. And this, in fact, lead that Democrats have is actually smaller than any lead from 2006 to 2021. So Democrats are leading. But again, we're talking about chipping away. Republicans are chipping away at this long-term advantage that Democrats have had among African Americans. We see it in terms of Trump's approval rating, and we even see it to a wider degree among the party ID margin, where all of a sudden there are a number of African Americans who are walking away from the Democratic Party and a number of them who are walking into the Republican tent.
And there's so much evidence for this. Now, if you are looking at a plus 51 point Democrat to Republican, what they're saying there is just about a 75% advantage to the Democrat. But that's still far below what it's normally been. And we're getting to that point where we can really start talking about the tough issues, not just around the United States, but in Mississippi, in Jackson, in Hinds County, in the Delta. You know, they do such a good job of dividing and splitting us up, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, you're black, so you're over here. Oh, you're white, so you're over here. Oh, you're Indian, so you're over here. Oh, you're Asian, so you're over here. You're Christian, so you're in this population. You're Islam, so you're in this population. You're Hindu, you're in this population. The left just slices and dices and cuts us up and pits us all up against one another. And it's not even local leftism, it's global leftism, where we're all the same, we're all homogenous in the end. But to get to that point, they got to cut us up, and it's not working. It's not helping at all. They are actually failing, and I've got more evidence to prove this, but let's finish this one up.
That is very interesting with looking at that past Gallup information.
Yeah.
What does this mean for the race for control in Congress?
Okay, so you see this right here. You see this 51-point advantage that Democrats have, significantly less than you see that 63-point advantage. And what we will note was back in 2024, right, Donald Trump put in a historically strong performance among African Americans. Democrats performed the worst in a generation. Have they gained any of that coalition back from where they fell down to in 2024? But take a look here. Okay, choice for election among African Americans. Kamala Harris was leading amongst that group in the pre-election polling by 63 points. Are Democrats gaining back any of that ground? It's a 62-point advantage now. Republicans are holding on to the gains that they made among African Americans in 2024. Republicans are gaining among African Americans. They are chipping away at that long-term advantage. The Donald Trump-led Republican Party is making gains among African Americans that we simply put have not seen the Republican Party make in a generation.
And that is absolutely frightening to the Democrat Party, especially in Mississippi. Now, I don't know whether the state of Mississippi will redraw their maps for the 2nd congressional district, but we should. When you look at what they've done in places like New England, Illinois, California, we should absolutely respond in kind. But we shouldn't draw it based on race. We should draw it based on population. We shouldn't need, we don't need to draw a congressional district in Mississippi like they do in Washington State or New Hampshire or Connecticut. Well, Connecticut's not a good example. I think they only have one congressman. But we are doing a good job here in Mississippi of at least trying to reach out and cross that bridge. Between Mike Hurst doing his thing at the state level, Spencer Ritchie doing his thing in Hinds County, and quite frankly, all of you just doing what you do. We all have relationships with friends who are on the other side of the aisle. I honestly look forward to talking to my one neighbor the most, and we debate and spar. Most of the times I win, but sometimes gets in there and gets a good point in, and I'm like, "You know what? I gotta think about that." You know what else I gotta think about? I gotta think about taking this break. You are tuned in to the Andrew Gosser Show on 103.9 WYAB. We'll be right back. Yeah. Welcome back to the Andrew Gosser Show on 103.9 WYAB. Phone number, if you want to call, is 601-879-0002. Text line is open at 601-879-5060. Did get a couple of texts in. Wasn't quite on topic, so I'm going to save them for a little bit later. But I want to continue going down this thread because, uh, you know, the Republican Party is making small inroads into the urban community, the Black community. But it's not the mainstream. It's not commonplace yet, but we are trying, and part of that is gonna have to go back and revisit the '60s and I'm not sure how to do that show. I mean, I'm pretty sure I would start a riot if I quoted Lyndon Baines Johnson in some of the things that he said. And the truth is that in the our civil rights history, we don't even talk about how the Civil Rights Act was actually passed. And the mainstream media, which I continue to say is the main culprit here in the United States, the major problem, they continue to cause disagreements between different cultures, between different groups of people, and it's a pain in the neck. We have to do better. We cannot fall victim to this. And sadly, I think we are. One of the ways that we're falling victim to it is the education of our kids. I think we're gonna have a more weekly segment of some of these teachers who are quitting teaching because kids are monsters. Yep. And, I apologize for this. I had my video queued up and ready to go. And, of course, Microsoft I got a story about Microsoft, by the way. Their shares are plummeting. And, there's been new stuff that Copilot has figured out. Copilot is now going into news sites like the Washington Times, Newsweek, etcetera, and basically rewriting their story. I apologize for not having this ready to go, but Microsoft, you're terrible. But this is some of the stuff that we're trying to fight in the Republican Party that we're not having the best of luck with.
My view is that states ought to decide this. A. B, regarding John's argument, I just fundamentally think that the government shouldn't be in the business of dividing us up by race. It's fundamentally racist to divide us up by race. We have African.
It's absolutely true. And it used to be, do you wanna do it? There was 2 boxes you had to check, and then you could have the unknown. I always check the unknown. It doesn't matter. Many of us who served in the military, we really didn't care about the race or ethnicity of the troops that we were serving next to. Were they good trigger pullers? Were they good admin troops, or were they good at the job that they were designed to do inside the military? Did they have the customs and courtesies that are expected in the US military? That was a big one. There are some cultures that have a hard time saying yes, sir, or no, ma'am, rendering a proper salute. They come from a place where that's not to be expected.
American members of the House winning in districts across the country with plurality white populations. We are well beyond the issues that were at play.
The issue there is
Yes, but
Clarence
we've
Thomas.
obviously got
Last
some
word,
serious
John.
deficits. We haven't had an African American Republican governor since Reconstruction.
That's true. We haven't had an African American governor since Reconstruction.
There's a unfortunately imbalance between the two parties.
Republicans tried to elect one in Virginia.
Okay, well, I'm just
I'm just saying. And then you got a white, and you got a white Democrat who gerrymandered the state. It's all crumbling.
We're going to end this here.
Do you hear that? That's the Abby's Phillip show, and Scott Jennings just waxing poetic. We as Republicans have tried to run qualified candidates who just happen to be black for governor. But the urban community, the black community knows what happens there. The CI, which ran all the drugs in the 80s, is now running the Commonwealth of Virginia. Remember, Virginia is not a state, ladies and gentlemen. It is a commonwealth. And now you've got a CIA case officer who's running the government there. She's the governor. She's taking away your Second Amendment rights. She's opening up all sorts of craziness. And the state is in a free fall. And that state, I lived there for almost 9 years of my life. It's traditionally very conservative, especially Hampton Roads area, Navy bases and whatnot down there. But you got the Washington, D.C. crowd, and you've got Richmond, And between those two blue points, they can spoke out and draw congressional lines that don't have any representation. And I'm shocked that that map that they voted on was actually overturned by the Supreme Court. And I wasn't even talking about it when it first got rejected because I was like, this is going to be reversed at the Supreme Court. They have to do it. Well, actually, it turns out they don't. There are certain rules and ways to change the congressional map in the Commonwealth of Virginia in an off centennial year. But you have to approve it in one congressional or one House session, then have a after it's approved, then you put it on the ballot for the people to vote on it, and then you have to have the new House vote on it, and then signed by the governor. And they didn't do that. Moreover, the question that they asked the voters was, "Do you want fair maps?" Who does something like that? It is a corrupt political machine that preys on the weak, the innocent, that preys on low information voters. And it's one of those things where you can spend an hour a day focusing on politics, and you might be a low information voter. The truth is we all have our strengths and weaknesses and what we like and what we enjoy. And, me enjoying the farm bill might not be your cup of tea or NASA and the space bill. People seem to enjoy NASA, though. We can all get behind rockets going into space and doing stuff like that. It's just a good thing. And that's what America is all about in the end. But we will continue to fight this battle. The ceasefire is held in Iran now for, I think, 10 days, 12 days. I'm not on top of it. I am on top of the fact that the US Coast Guard finally got paid after 76 days. Thank you, Democrats. I think all that changed once they tried to assassinate President Trump again. And the reality really kicked in that the games that the United States Senate is playing is not working. I am Andrew Gosser. This is 1039 WYAB, and we will be right back. Yeah. Welcome back to the Andrew Gossip Show. And this segment is brought to you by Divinity Rental and Equipment. Kubota Orange Days are back through June 30th. You know, it's May 1st. April showers bring May flowers. Might be time that you need a new appliance for your farm, a new apparatus. Now through June 30th, take advantage of the Kubota Orange Days at Divinity Rental and Supply, featuring big savings, including 0% financing offers on thousands of select tractors, mowers, and equipment. I am very happy with my 7-foot cutter that Blair sold me. And Kubota just seemed to do right by the BA farm, and I'm grateful and thankful for them. From tractors to zero-turn mowers to excavators and skid steers, Divinity offers a full lineup of high-performance equipment to handle any job, big or small. And I didn't realize this, but they do have excavators. In fact, one was in my neighbor's front yard the other day. And just the quality and the service that you get from Divinity is top-notch. Serving Mississippi for over 50 years, Divinity's knowledgeable team is committed to helping you find the right equipment with dependable service and support. And I'll tell you what, when I go in there, Jody's at the service desk. I go to the location, Spring Ridge Road, south of I-20, but they're also up in Highway 51 near Gluckstadt. I'm telling you, as a farmer, you can't go wrong with a good Kubota product. And we're grateful and thankful for them sponsoring the show. And it's easy to do an ad read for Kubota when you have so much of their equipment on your own farm. We thank y'all. We're going to get back to this. I said Friday's good news, and I've got really good news. How many of you are just getting more fed up? And I am going to use the F word on the radio. So get ready for it in 3, 2, 1. How many of you are fed up with Facebook? The things that get suggested to me are things that I totally do not want to interact with. I know there's a certain segment of people out there who absolutely enjoy the Karens of the world, people of Walmart. There's Mississippi politics groups on Facebook. And if you just want to experience the brain rot for yourself, you can go right there, because some of the top posters are AI bots. And they just post. You can tell that they didn't write it. You can tell that they just AI, write me 17 paragraphs on this and blah. This is coming from Wired. It's undignified. Hundreds of workers training Meta's AI bots could be laid off. Yep, Zuck is doing it. Hundreds of workers in Ireland tasked with refining Meta's AI models have been told that their jobs are at risk at the company as it embarks on a sweeping new round of layoffs, according to documents obtained by Wired. Man, we always used to complain about when we knew our jobs were getting done, and this never happened to me personally. So, you were always training your replacement, and you're going to get fired. In the military, I always trained my replacement, but I never got fired from something. But I always did want to replace myself. So for me, that's not a big deal. But Facebook, Meta, and the Zuck, the workers were informed of the layoffs over a brief video meeting Monday afternoon. Dude, could you imagine? You're sitting there thinking that you're going in for your weekly telecon with America back across the pond. Oh, yeah, you're going to be laid off here pretty soon. Thanks for training your AI overlord. I am getting less and less on Facebook. If you follow me on Facebook, you'll see that I rarely post anything new there. I mainly do it to keep track on my brothers or my sisters and my grandkids. But that's about it. One of the employees on the call said, "We had a pretty bad feeling before the meeting. This has happened before." So this is kind of standard modus operandi for Facebook. In all, more than 700 employees stand to potentially lose their jobs, according to an email reviewed by Wire. 500 of them are data annotators. I don't know what a data annotator is. I know what a data analyst is. Maybe it's just like a different job title to pay them less money. But this is, and I'm glad that it's happening to Meta. I think with what Meta did, what Facebook did, what Zuck did, during the COVID-19 pandemic, scamdemic, how they censored free speech when they said that they were the public square, but if Meta didn't like what you were saying, they'd immediately lop off your reach. And I know my reach is lopped off on Facebook. I really don't care. Sometimes I have to talk about things that some people might find objectionable. As long as you can do it without yelling and screaming, insulting someone about it, at least they're gonna listen to you, but you can't have that on Facebook, nope. Sometimes the work involves cooking up. What are you cooking up with AI? Elaborate prompts to try to bypass guardrails meant to prevent models from serving up child sexual abuse material. Oh, you mean like how they're going after X in France for that? Maybe Zuck should take on Elon in that fight. I have to say that my experience on X, I haven't experienced any of that hot garbage. Your mileage may vary. Ugh, listen to this. This is gonna be a hard read, but this is just wow. On descriptions of suicide, it's quite a grueling job. So they're training the AI to look up things like suicide, sexual assault, minors. I'm censoring this here. They're training the AI to do that, and then they're gonna be left away. But if they're doing this at Meta, then they're gonna be doing it at Instagram. And if they're doing it at Instagram, they're gonna be doing it on TikTok. That was one of the comments the other day that I wasn't saying TikTok correctly, I was saying Tic Tac. I kinda do that. That's kinda like Bad Rabbit. I don't wanna give them any satisfaction, justification of even mentioning them on my show or on the airwaves. Up to 400 more people could potentially be losing their jobs now that they're getting the AI trained up. And at some point, the AI is gonna train the AI, and that's when it's gonna get truly scary. And perhaps I know some of us have seen this, but the algorithm is changing on the social media platforms that we do use. Whether that be YouTube, Rumble, YouTube especially, they're rapidly changing their algorithm, and we're finding that more and more kids are thinking that AI is a god. That's going to be on Monday's show. I've got clips. I mean, it's absolutely frightening. You've got young kids thinking this. You've got grown adults thinking that God is living in their Chat GPT. Absolutely confounding to me. Affected workers, the search for new work will be hampered by a 6-month cool down period during which they are unable to apply to any competing company. With how fast the industry is moving, if you take a week's vacation, you're gonna be behind the power curve. And Meta's got them to a 6-month non-compete clause. I hope they're at least getting paid. The people there are saying it's undignified and not fair. Well, life isn't fair, and, what Jeff Zuckerberg has done by completely monetizing the public square and then trying to shift public opinion of it. That's why when I say the public media is the enemy of the state, you can throw in social media too. It's brutal. So that's what's going on with Wired and Facebook. We're gonna take another break, and when we get back, we've got some local stuff we wanna talk to as we wrap up the first hour here on the Andrew Gosser Show on 103.9 WYAB. We'll be right back. Oh, yeah. Welcome back to the Andrew Gosser Show right here on 1039 WYAB. This is not breaking news, but it is new. The Middle East's largest LGBTQ festival is being held. Does anybody have an idea of where this festival is being held? I'll wait. Google it, Grok it, Chat GPT it. Where is the Middle East's largest LGBTQ festival held? It's called Pride Land. It's located in the Dead Sea in Israel, June 1st through the 4th, 2026. Family programming, stuff for kids to do. I wonder who's going to be practicing there. Will it be the Christians? Will it be the Jews? Will it be the Muslims? I don't think it'll be the Muslims because they're too busy pushing homosexuals off of rooftops and having them fall to their death. And this is why some people who are so gung ho about Israel, I say, yeah, pull it back a little bit. But there is good news coming out of this. Tennessee cancels Pride Month, replaces it with Family Month. How about that? We got our month back. We got my birthday month back. Tennessee drops Pride from June and renames it the Nuclear Family. Weren't we just cutting edge of societal evolution, people? The nuclear family. We got to get back to it. And it's not that women can't go out and do good things, but there's just nothing. There's just some things that men can't do that women can, and that's being mom at home. And it's absolutely disgusting to the women out there who discredit women who stay at home and take care of their families. Big job, big job. Tennessee will now recognize June as Nuclear Family Month, a move some critics claim is less about family and more about diminishing the LGBTQ community during Pride Month. Yeah, because no other community gets a whole dang month. It happens in society, obviously, but cell phones have programmed it into our kids, programmed it into our young adults. Did it exist in the 60s? Yeah, nothing like it does now, though. The resolution language includes the definition of the nuclear family as one husband and one wife and any biological, adopted, or fostered children. How about that? And claims that God's design for familiar structure. Wow, Tennessee going full in. I wish we could do that in Mississippi. I haven't really honestly checked into it. I know that nationally we got rid of it and some states are getting rid of it. Mississippi tend to be a little bit on the slow side on some of that stuff. We take our big hit every once in a while. We swung to the fences with Roe v. Wade and won that. So we're just kind of resting on our laurels a little bit till we decide to take the next big planning event. Told you there's good news out there. In the next hour, it's going to be lit, ladies and gentlemen, because we're going to be talking about the conflict in Iran. It's not a war because the president won't declare it and Congress won't approve it. So we just use the War Power Act. And technically, we're not in any war right now. We're at a ceasefire. And it's ticking all the Democrats off. So we're going to talk about that. And we're going to talk about Europe and the snobby Europeans. I know Americans are snobby, but at least we can back up our talk. Europe is melting down over this. And I think there's so much more going on behind the scenes than even we see out here. You've got people down talking the American military, down talking the U.S. resolve, saying we're running out of missiles, saying the troops are disengaged, morale is low. And you can scream it all you want, but it's not the truth. You've actually got Europeans saying that they're bigger than the United States. Can you believe that? I've got the story to prove it, and we're going to have so much fun with it, ladies and gentlemen. Sometimes you got to stick it to the limeys. even if you are an Arsenal fan. Stay tuned to the Andrew Gosser Show. We'll be back in about 7.5 minutes. Welcome back to hour number 2 of the Andrew Gosser Show right here on 103.9 WYAB, where we're streaming on Rumble, we're streaming on X, we're streaming on YouTube, and we're streaming at the mothership, WYAB.com. So if you can't pick up our 50,000 watt blowtorch of a signal, that is 103.9 WYAB, like, share, and subscribe to the stream. Greatly appreciate that. Also, you can go ahead and follow me on X. It's just at Andrew Gosser, AndrewGasser. And look, if you want to be part of the program today, all sorts of good news today. Today's been good news day. Number 601-879-0002. Text line is open, 601-879-5060. The mission here at the Andrew Gosser Show is standard. We are here to equip the saints. Who are the saints? You all are the saints. And you can plant it, you can water it, but it's God that gives the increase. And I stand by that. Look, we all know that Great Britain, they say that's our closest ally. It's our closest friend internationally. But are they really? Are they really our closest friend? I'm not so sure. You know, they sit there and they talk a big game, and for this conversation, excluding the SAS and the SBS, we'll talk about everything else because those guys are special. You know, we've got this blockade going on, and we've asked for help, for people to help with the blockade. The French said no, which is standard because they run from a fight until the very end, until they have to fight. The Spanish said no. Well, we kind of got that. Germany said no, kind of got that. Great Britain said no. Well, did you know that they only have 16 ships? And I went through and I looked up American ships because I want to make sure that what I'm telling you is truthful. You can use it at home and you can kind of smack around the British with this. We've got our large aircraft carriers. We've got two classes. You got the Ford, and of course, I get text bombed. The potties don't work. The potties are working just fine. They're on the longest deployment since Vietnam. It's a brand new carrier. We're putting some miles on that thing quickly. Then you got the Nimitz class carriers. You got Nimitz going to Philadelphia right now. It's participating in an exercise, but they're supposed to retire it. I wouldn't be surprised if it did one more, to be quite truthful with you, with all the problems they're having with the John F. Kennedy Ford class carrier. Might squeak one more out of that. Then we've got our landing assault ships. And then we've got our destroyers and cruisers. Great Britain couldn't even get a destroyer or a cruiser out there. They couldn't even get a frigate, which is even smaller than a cruiser. They are so military inept. They project all this power through NATO and through the EU, but they don't have the power. And they're propped up by who? The BBC. Do you know that British people actually have to pay a tax to the BBC for their news? Have that brainwashed rot gut slammed down their throat every day? That's terrible. So I go to Newsweek. Britain's guess how wealthy the UK is versus all the United States. And how do you think it's going to work out for them, ladies and gentlemen? Well, let's get it straight off the top. States like California, Texas, maybe New York, maybe. You know, there's a lot of wealth leaving New York going to places like Florida and Texas. They're not that big. So where do you think, and think about this, who does the UK have more wealth than? Which states? Surely Alabama, Louisiana, Oklahoma, Tennessee, although Tennessee is kind of growing big. You know, In-N-Out Burger just relocated to Tennessee. You do have Nashville there, and even though country music's getting gutted by this pop culture rock gut trash. It still is country music. Illinois, I mean, Illinois still is pretty much a powerhouse. What if I told you that New Mexico is bigger than the UK? Would you believe that? The state of New Mexico. It's barren out there. You got the missile range out there, Albuquerque, Kirkland Air Force Base, the space aliens, and that's about it. There's nothing in New Mexico. New Mexico could possibly be bigger than the UK. And think about this culturally. Think about this culturally. We see the UK and we get to hear about London and how London is manipulating all the oil prices. And we're going to get into the oil. Oh, don't you worry about that. Lloyd's of London artificially inflating the oil prices, canceling insurance on tankers operating around the world. Do you know that Lloyd's of London has had the monopoly on tanker and shipping insurance for the last 300 years? How the heck did they insure a ship over 300 years ago? The early 1700s, Lloyd's of London was getting the racket down. Now you know where America got it from. We got it from our bully big brother, and then we whooped his butt. And then we took all of his toys and we said, "Get out of here." You think about how the United Kingdom boasts about NATO. The United States pays 82% of all NATO bills. And then they have the gall to come over here and tell us how we stink. How the bases that we upkeep and afford, whether that be in Italy, whether that be in England, whether that be in Germany, the Netherlands, Norway. I mean, if this is just a racket to keep Europe afloat, why not just build those bases here in the United States and have a stronger at-home military defense? We don't have to upkeep all those other countries. They can go have their own wars. They're already being overrun with illegal immigration. What about the state of Rhode Island? What does Rhode Island have a bigger GDP than the UK? Newsweek article, I'm telling you, it's shocking. South Carolina. You would think that with Boeing being there and their aircraft production in the ports there. Virginia obviously is bigger than the UK because it's hooked up right next to Washington, D.C., and you're getting all that federal money being pumped into the Commonwealth of Virginia. The same thing could be said for Maryland, and even to a lesser extent, is West Virginia. Is West Virginia bigger than the UK? North Dakota, South Dakota? No, no way. Montana? Nope. I think Washington and Oregon, between their ports that they have on the Pacific Ocean and their tourism, they're probably on par with the UK. Alaska, with all of its natural oil reserves and their import and export, but their population isn't that big. So would the UK be bigger than Alaska, do you think? It's actually it's frightening. What do you think is bigger when it comes to the economy? The United Kingdom or the United Kingdom or Mississippi? Who's bigger? Think carefully now. We got Jackson. We got Tupelo. We got Oxford. We got Biloxi and Gulfport. Well, if you are reading this Newsweek article, which I'm about to shift over, the total GDP, overall economy size, not GDP per capita, but the GDP per the UK ranks below all 50 United States. It would be the 51st state. And the king and queen came over here and just started schmoozing with our president from a position of complete lack of power, lack of financial power, political power, military power. Hell, the only thing he's got is the crown jewels. What is that worth? If you were to sit there and believe the mainstream media, you would think that the United Kingdom was this super juggernaut of a power. And I don't want to diminish any of the special forces that the UK has. Because they're the granddaddies of them all. They're the ones who actually started that with the special air service and the special boat service. And that's where a lot of our special forces start their training. They pull from that, and that heritage and history is excellent and not to be taken lightly. But I'm here to tell you that it's lesser than all 50 states, behind even Mississippi. They even throw us in there as the 50th state. But we're not. I think we're 47th or 46th. Ladies and gentlemen, we do not need to listen to all the fear-mongering that the mainstream media says. You know, I used to say this all the time when I was in the space business. NASA was living off of its legacy. Europe, Great Britain, they're living off the legacy. The United States, we're starting to. But we still have a strong economic engine. We still have a very strong military. And we still have a very strong culture. Now, our schools are trying to get rid of the culture. They're trying to get rid of the 4th of July parades. They don't like Independence Day. They're trying to say we're all on stolen land, which is not true. You know what? Go look up the purchase price of Louisiana Territory, Alaska, and get back to me. It's absolutely insidious what AI and the mainstream media are doing by removing certain parts of our history and adding others. Heck, some of our kids can't even pay attention anymore, let alone pay the rent. But I found this story absolutely hilarious. The fact that they brought up Mississippi is even better to me because I know Mississippi's the best state in the union after living at many states and a few commonwealths. Well, a commonwealth. I don't think any of the other states I lived in were commonwealth, but Virginia was. And we've got it so good here. Even when it's wet and rainy outside. Our culture of hospitality, undeniable. Our food is supreme. I was talking to my sister the other day. She goes, "Yeah, but you don't have any good food down there." And I just said, "Yeah, you don't wanna come down. You don't want that." She has no idea what a crawfish boil is. She has no idea what the Big Apple pig ear sandwich is all about. Stamped Super Burger. Ely's. The food that we have here, our culture is so awesome, it's so special, and it doesn't mean that we don't have brokenness in our past. Do you know anybody who is alive right now that doesn't have some brokenness in their past? But I'm sick and tired of dwelling on the brokenness. And I'm sick and tired of the people who are making money off of the brokenness. And it's time we start recognizing that, yeah, we still have a long way to go and we still have things we can improve on, but man, we've got it pretty darn good here in Mississippi. And Mississippi is greater than the UK in total GDP. This is coming from Newsweek. Britain's guess how wealthy the UK is versus the United States? They get it all wrong. They're absolutely shocked. I'd go read some of these quotes, but as soon as I start scrolling, it locks up. So I'll share it on X. You are tuned into the Andrew Gosser Show on 103.9 WYAB. Hey, we are Mississippi. We do have a greater GDP than the UK. We'll be right back. And we are back here at the Andrew Gosser Show on 103.9 WYAB. We're moving and grooving, just putting mom to voicemail. She does that. You know, we love our moms. I know some of us, our mothers, have moved on to on to heaven, and I appreciate that. But for those of us who still have our moms still call it the most inopportune times. And then you're sitting there like, "Mom, I love you, but I'm working right now, making it happen." You know, we had that call earlier this week, and I briefly defended him. He was talking about the greed of the oil companies, and I'm not arguing that, but do we actually know how our oil is priced? Do we actually sit down and educate ourselves on how certain things work, or do we just take it all for granted because we're Americans, and so there. We want cheap oil. First of all, these oil prices, I never wanna hear another lib talk about the Green New Deal ever again. AOC, you can go fly a kite. Greta Thunberg, go fly a kite. Man, I almost cursed right there. Because these prices are nothing like what they were in the past. And they're all whining and moaning. We just heard in the top of the news hour break, somebody with a British accent saying how it's gonna take years to recover. It's not gonna take years. America will still be here. We'll still be plugging along unless they release another corona type virus in the next 2, 3 years, or the AI takes over. We don't even know how oil is priced. So it is a cartel. It is a racket. I researched it. How did I research it? First, I Googled it and didn't like what the Google AI was telling me, so I grokked it. And OPEC is the influencing factor in all of it. They don't want it to be below a certain level. And then the oil traders in London add in their influence to it, and that's where the market sets its oil prices from. Now, there are other contributing factors, which we talked about on the show yesterday, how California, they've got different blends for different size vehicles that you've got to get. And the gasoline that's refined in Texas won't work in California. So you're going to have price increase there. You also heard about the tricks that people are using. If you're a member of Costco or a member of Sam's Club, you can get gas for 20 to 30 cents cheaper. It's true. You have to pay a membership fee every year of $100, but you think about how quickly after 10 tanks of gas, you probably make that up. And you can still go into Costco or Sam's. It's always fun to go into Sam's in Pearl. I don't have a Costco membership. So for the liberals to sit out here and pretend like they're worried about the little guy in the family, if the gas prices were this high because of the Green New Deal, they wouldn't say nothing. Think about all the birds that the windmills kill. They don't say nothing about that. They really don't care if it's a American bald eagle. They hate that. But it's a condor or something like that, then they get all wigged out a little bit. You think about the solar farms. Not the ones that in your backyard that will power your house for 8 or 9 hours if you're lucky. But these big solar farms that cook the birds. And they don't even have half the power generation that they claim to be. This is all just some big fear-mongering scheme. And I encourage people to go ahead and read up on it. This gave me 3 pages of stuff, and I tried to break it down, but the main things is OPEC, London, and then industry standards. By industry standards, this would be like California setting their different price, and that's what's driving oil. If the United States had more gasoline refineries, that might have a little bit to do with it because we could sell gasoline to ourselves. Here's the other thing that I found out about this, researching this for y'all. Do you know, let's say we have a bunch of gasoline in Gulfport, Mississippi that needs to go to Miami, Florida. If that boat that we load the gasoline on is not made in the United States, you can't ship the gasoline to Miami. So if the boat is from Panama, it's gotta go outside the United States. There's some weird opaque law that limits that. President Trump was talking about that. And it does that, to be fair, that is one of the weak places that America is very vulnerable at, is its ability to ship natural resources inside the continental United States from shore to shore. We've got pipelines, we've got 18-wheelers, and our trucking and interstate distribution system is truly second to none. Thank you, President Eisenhower. But when it comes to boats, we don't do that well anymore. We can barely produce carriers, and I know we just went off on Great Britain and their lack of shipping ability. We can still pump out the small boys at a decent rate, but when it comes to our bigger ships, we have problems. And at least we're recognizing them now. So with this whole oil, everybody up in arms over oil, I'm not really too concerned about it. They say that May 2nd is the day for Iran, ladies and gentlemen. If there is not some deal by May 2nd, there are some experts who say that they're going to have to go ahead and cut off their supply. They're going to have to shut off their wells, and they'll never be the same again. You know what? I'm always ready to go to break, and I get a caller. Let's see what happens here. Hey, go ahead. You're on the air. You got about a minute.
Yeah, it looks like it's a war situation, Andrew. Started back in Vietnam. Looks like every bit of it turns out to just be over the oil. Thank you.
Yep. Hey, I appreciate the phone call real quick. And it is about the oil, isn't it? It's the energy that makes the world go round. And if it's not the oil companies and the tech barons in London who are controlling it, it's the Green New Deal politicians who are controlling it. And we have to get to a point to where there's something bigger, to where we're all not so concentrated and focused on just the oil. And I appreciate the phone call, man. I'm sorry that I didn't have longer, but I got to take this break. You are listening to 103.9 WYAB. Be right back.
jawaabteedu waxay ahayd dowladda Mareykanka waxay ka qabanaysaa wixii annaga aan dhahno dowladda Mareykanka qabo. Waa kalsoonidaas inaan isku qabno annaga Soomaali haddii aan nahay. Waddankan annaga ku nool, waddankan waddankii aan annaga tax ka dhiibno waaye. Waa waddankii gabar idinka dhalatayne ee Congress-ka fadhiso. Intii aniga aan Congress joogo, waddanka Soomaaliya biyaheeda dad kaleeta iyo baddeeda dad kale ma qaadanayaan. Waddanka Mareykanka
Yeah. Welcome back to the Andrew Gosser Show. I was just checking on the messages into the show, and there were 3 messages talking about, did Michael Guest ever look into investigating Ilhan Omar? And the answer is I don't know. But I'll tell you what, I did get the video or in the audio of Ilhan Omar yesterday from Dr. Patricia Williams, the Carver County GOP chairwoman. And I want to play this video for you. And then I'm just going to read what it actually says. And it won't take long, but I really feel this is important that you get some context. This is U.S. Congresswoman Ilhan Omar, Minnesota.
jawaabteedu waxay ahayd dowladda Mareykanka waxay ka qabanaysaa wixii annaga aan dhahno dowladda Mareykanka qabo. Waa kalsoonidaas inaan isku qabno annaga Soomaali haddii aan nahay. Waddankan annaga ku nool, waddankan waddankii aan annaga tax ka dhiibno waaye.
That's enough. It goes on for almost a minute. This is what she actually said, and I had Grok translate it. So if there's a little bit of a translation error, it's also subtitled, but I can't read it as fast as she's talking. It would just talking over it wouldn't make good radio. But this does make good radio. My answer to Somalia was that the U.S. government will only do what Somalis in the U.S. tell them to do. They will do what we want and nothing else. They must follow our orders, and that's how we will safeguard the interest of Somalia. We Somalis must have the confidence in ourselves that we call for the shots in the United States. We live in the U.S. We pay U.S. taxes and have a real voice. The U.S. is a country where one of your daughters, myself, is in Congress to represent your interest for us as long as I am in the U.S. Congress. Somalia will never be in danger. Its waters will not be stolen by Ethiopia or others. Sleep in comfort knowing that I am there to protect the interests of Somalia from inside the United States system. Congressman Michael Guest, you got to do something about this, brother. Now, if she was talking about the state of Minnesota, would that not be that would not be a problem? If I heard a congressman or a senator talking about their state and defending their state, heck, listen to some of Roger Wicker's stuff. You might not like him, but he defends Mississippi. But this is a country that harbors terrorism. You know, ISIS was home base in Africa was in Somalia. And they had another name for it. I forget the name of it now. I've got so many of those crazy terrorist organizations rumbling in my head. Too many to throw a stick at. But this just goes to show you how infiltrated the US Congress really is. And the fact that the oversight committee said it wasn't their responsibility, that if this is an ethical issue, then hopefully we would think that our good friend Michael Guest would take care of that. And I'm not being smartastic. I'm not trying to jab at the congressman. Everybody knows it's not my style. I'm genuinely thinking that this would be a slam dunk. I mean, people at Jackson, you're getting treated worse than the people of Mogadishu. I mean, Benny ain't talking about you like she's talking about Somalia. Hell, none of the Democrats are talking about the Democrat Party like this lady's talking about her people. We are so blinded by our own technology and our screens and our social media that we can't even see the enemies within. And I had to explain this the other day at a restaurant. I'm like, if you're an enemy and you're living in the United States and you don't have to pay for your housing, your food, anything like that, then hey, it's a free ride for you. It's a free ride for you. There's a story out there. I'm looking for it right now. I just had it pulled up. There's a Harvard professor who got charged and spent time in jail for spying for China, is now running one of China's research laboratories on brain research. He served less than 2 years and got a visa to go to China, and he ain't coming back now. But that barely even breaks the news cycle anymore. It's just it's crazy. But you know what does make the news cycle? Elon Musk's Tesla compensation for last year. Do we wanna guess how much that was? Now, it's not cash, it's just stock, but how much stock compensation do you think Elon got last year? And this is just for Tesla. This isn't for the Boring Company or Neuralink or what SpaceX is gonna do. There's talking SpaceX is gonna be $1 trillion IPO. Potentially $2 trillion. I think they're just waiting to launch this next rocket here to make sure that it goes okay, and then they're gonna IPO SpaceX, and it's just gonna go bazonkers. And what's really crazy is when you start thinking about the capability that Elon and his company have. Yes, the United States has access to it, but it's still Elon's company. And if I was advising Elon, I'd say, "Don't take it public, just keep control of it yourself." You can blast through so many things. Once you take a company public, it's gonna be a nightmare. Elon Musk Tesla compensation for 2025 was, drum roll please, $158 million. $158 million. Nah, it wasn't that. It wasn't 158 million. It was $158 billion. He could technically buy up pretty much the whole state of Mississippi. He could completely fix Jackson. I'm not saying that's what he should do with his money. It's his money, and whatever he does with it, that's his business. It's his mind that created Tesla when everybody thought Elon was crazy for electric cars. It's Elon's money when he goes out there now, it's having cars that drive safer than human beings do. That new self-driving software that's in the Teslas that's being used, FSD 14.3, whatever. Ladies and gentlemen, it is picking out threats before the human eye would ever pick out threats. It's not just looking in the visible spectrum, it's looking in the IR spectrum. The deer that you know are on the side of the road at night, but you can't see, your Tesla will see it. And Tesla's gonna be making the Optimus robots that have more dexterity and agility than a human. They're building the new chip factory in Austin, Texas, that will produce more chips than Taiwan, which is huge. Because and make no mistake about it, with everything that's happening in Iran, China is paying very close attention to it. I didn't talk about it today, really, but China has been feeding Iran intelligence, satellite imagery, incredibly detailed. And that's how they got lucky with their strikes inside Saudi Arabia, was because of China. And so China wants to take Taiwan to get the chip processing. And that's a big deal. That's why we have the Ronald Reagan. You never hear about the Ronald Reagan aircraft carrier. It's out of Japan. It's always just on patrol, right around there. I'm sure we have some submarines and some cruisers and destroyers and whatnot. But that's where the competition's coming in. And I'm telling you what, with the price of oil, these electric cars aren't looking too shabby now, are they? Especially if you got your own little solar gig going. And not only that, the genius of it is so incredible, because if you so choose, you have the right to say no, but if you so choose, you can leave your Tesla car and its computer processor plugged into the net, preferably via Starlink, to go ahead and use your car as processing power for Grok. And you're gonna end up getting paid for that. Now, I'm not saying you're gonna get paid millions of dollars. It's not like you're gonna make money off of it, uh, to where you don't have to work anymore. But it might be a buck or 2 a day. Would you take that deal? You own a car and you get paid a buck or 2 a day. Especially for those there are many people who buy Teslas who just buy it all off at once, don't even finance it, just boop. Lots of good news. Elon Musk couldn't do what he did in Canada or Great Britain or South Africa. There's only one place Elon Musk could succeed. He couldn't do it in Russia, he couldn't do it in China, he couldn't do it in Taiwan. There's only one place he could do it, and that's the United States of America. And so for all of our blemishes, from all of our flaws to all of our mistakes, we're still the best thing going on this thing called planet Earth. You are tuned into the Andrew Gosser Show on 103.9 WYAB. We'll be right back. Oh, yeah, it's the dulcet tones of the Andrew Gosser Show on 1039 WYAB. I hope you all stay dry this weekend. I know I'll be out there in the muck with my man Marty Cowden. He's a sponsor here at WYAB, Cowden Electric. You know, I'm on the air and I have a show, but I use the sponsors that actually sponsor the station. And Marty's been nothing but awesome getting my home electric up to code. You know, our home was built in 1940, and there's some things that just go with it. And Marty's been on top of it, worked through it, and I'm just grateful and thankful for him. So if you're looking for some electrical work to be done, Cowden Electric, you can find him online at cowdenelectric.com, or you can give him a call at 601-591-0339. I'm sure he would appreciate it. You know, I didn't even get a chance to talk about the federal judge temporarily blocking Metro Jackson Water Authority. I didn't even get a real chance to talk about that. I mean, obviously, you know, judges are interfering and stuff like that, but it's over at the Magnolia Tribune. Daniel Tyson wrote this one, and you know, the state is moving along trying to fix the water in Jackson. The federal government has helped out. You've got the judicial branch involved in this, and you've got Jackson trying to get involved with this. Man, if I was the mayor, if I was one of those trust aldermen, I'd be like, man, get it fixed. It's not about who gets credit for it; it's about who gets it fixed. And I honestly think that's what the biggest problem with humanity is we're all looking for credit for something that we don't really need credit for. Doesn't mean you don't deserve it, but you really don't need it. It's like your neighbor who will always come over and help you out when you need a hand, tree limb, cows get out. They don't sit there and say, look at me, look at how great I am, I'm helping you. You just go do it because it's the right thing to do. And I did find that story on the Chinese Harvard or scientist. He rebuilds his computer lab in China. On April 30th, 2026, Reuters reported former Harvard professor Charles Lebler now leads the same funded Institute for Brain Research, Advanced Interfaces and Neurologic Technologies at Shenzhen, China. And he's getting $2 million a year. He's making out like a bandit. You know who else is making out like a bandit? I'm making out like a bandit. It's the weekend. We'll probably go to the Antique Mall of the South, do our once or twice monthly perusal, see what's going on there. I'm going to take the Sweepy out for a good lunch. Yep. And I know I say this a lot, especially on Fridays, but men, we got to let our women know how important they are to us. We got to let our kids know how important they are to us. Sweet Toots is on a girls' trip, so it's just going to be the Sweet Bee and Sponge show, along with our dogs and our sheep and our chickens. Ladies and gentlemen, take that time to tell your spouse how much you love them, how much they mean to you. You know, time is fleeting. It goes by quick. You never know when you're going to not be able to give that person a hug or let them know how much you love them. And it really doesn't even take that much time. Simple bouquet of flowers from the Kroger, or you can step up and go to a florist. It's the little things that count. Until next week, take care, everybody. Be blessed. Yes, and amen.